Alright, it is day 4, which means we have developer comment number 4 for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And initially I was not going to make a video on this because I read the comment itself and I'm like, okay, that's rather straightforward. There's not really too much to elaborate on here, but I did see people read this comment online and they're starting to voice their concerns for VII Remake's story not flowing well with Rebirth, or perhaps being inconsequential to the overall story of Rebirth, which I do not think is the case. So I decided to make a video kind of elaborating on what exactly I think is going to happen with this comment and with Rebirth. So today's question and answer comes to us from Motomu Toriyama, who is the game's co-director. Do I need to play Final Fantasy VII Remake to enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? He responds, no, we have made preparations so that players who did not get a chance to play the first game can fully enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, Audrey on Twitter took the Japanese version of this tweet and translated it, and it is slightly different from the English one, but according to her translation, it says we have prepared elements that those who have not played Final Fantasy VII Remake can still follow up to enjoy VII Rebirth. So, what exactly is going on here? Because like I said at the beginning of the video, I saw a lot of people online saying like, oh no, this means that you don't even have to play Remake to enjoy Rebirth. That means the story won't matter. Everything we did was pointless. It's inconsequential. I really don't think that's the case. Anytime you have a sequel to a big property, you want it to be as accessible as possible in terms of its story, so it's easy for people to follow. You might have people who played the game years ago and haven't touched it since, and even they're going to need a refresher, as well as the new players who don't know who Cloud is, they don't know what the party has been through, but they want to see what Rebirth is all about. And the simplest explanation here is usually the correct answer, and that's most likely that they're going to be including a recap video in this game. So, what's a recap video? For a lot of video games, you boot the game up, and at the main menu, you have an option that says recap previous game. God of War Ragnarok actually did that most recently. I think some people were saying that Jedi Survivor also did that. A lot of sequel games will do this because they know that the first game did so well and they fully expect more people to play the sequel, and they want to catch people up to speed in the easiest way possible. So for example, you boot up God of War Ragnarok, maybe you're someone who didn't play God of War 2018, they give you the option to watch a short recap movie that goes over all of the important events from the previous game, and now you're caught up to speed. Boom. Pretty simple. So I think that's all they're talking about here with Rebirth. You start up the game, you're going to have the option to watch a recap. It's going to cover all the important bullet points from Remake to catch you up to speed for Rebirth. But if we want to get a little fancier, I think what they could do is take the recap and build it into the opening of the game. So from the intermission DLC, at the very end, we do see Cloud and everyone traveling and hitchhiking their way to Calm. We don't actually see them get into Calm just yet, they're like towards the entrance, but this could be a really cool way to have the characters themselves recap the events of VII Remake in the opening of the game. You could have one person narrate the entire thing, or you could just have the characters casually talking to one another in conversation and recapping like, hey, remember when this happened? Remember when that happened? On their way to Calm, and then once they get into Calm, that's the opening of the game, that Calm flashback where Cloud tells his events, which again, are not accurate, of what happened at Nibelheim and the burning of the village and the attack that Sephiroth has once he goes psycho. And I think that's what the opening of the game is going to be, a playable, calm flashback, Cloud and Sephiroth. You might not be controlling Sephiroth, he'll probably have his own AI telling him what to do, but I think that will be the true opening of the game, is playing that flashback through Cloud's eyes. That's pretty much what I think they mean for this. I really don't think it's as deep as some people are making it out to be. I think the story from VII Remake obviously is going to be important going forward, and they just want to make it as accessible for everyone to hop on board with Rebirth, whether you played VII Remake years ago or you didn't play VII Remake but you want to check out Rebirth because it looks cool. So at the end of the day, that's what I think they mean. Okay, before we end today's video, I think we should talk very briefly about time travel and timelines, because I think that's what's going to be going on in Rebirth. And this is sparked based on a comment that was left on my previous video, Changing Fate, where I talked very briefly about fixed points in time, which are essentially moments in time that cannot be changed no matter what you do, No matter how hard you try, those points always need to happen. They cannot be stopped. And if you do try to stop them, there's going to be severe ramifications going forward. And to me, 2 fixed points in time might be Zack's death and the death of Aerith. And I brought those up because it kind of felt like the developers were using those as red herrings to get us to believe that Zack is alive and he can stay alive and that we can save Aerith. But to me, their deaths are fixed points in time that need to happen for different reasons. Zack dying makes Cloud who he is, and Aerith dying helps her become one with the planet in the live stream to stop Sephiroth later on. And there's some more nitty-gritty details that I could bring up later on. But again, I brought this up because of that comment that was left on my video. And the comment is from Dude Tensei, and they go on to say, why would it be a fixed point in time if we killed Destiny? That defeats the whole point of the remake ending. And you know what? They're not wrong. This person makes a very valid point, because at the end of Remake, we killed the Whispers, who were essentially the guardians of the timeline. They were trying their best to ensure that the OG events of Final Fantasy VII still took place with minimal manipulation, and now they're gone, pretty much leaving only 2 characters that can manipulate the timeline. Sephiroth, who was showing up way earlier than he should have in Remake, trying to manipulate Cloud, and potentially Aerith, who is one with the Earth and might be the one who's sending visions to Cloud to warn him of things that are coming in the future. And all of this is really going to depend on how Rebirth depicts time travel and timelines, because this stuff has been depicted so vastly different depending on the movie, the TV show, or the book. You look at Avengers Endgame, and the way that they do time travel is way different than what a TV show like The Flash does. And if I'm not mistaken, scientists have said that the way Endgame depicts time travel is actually closer to what time travel would be in the real world, meaning you got your one main timeline. Let's call it the prime timeline. The Avengers go back in time, change some stuff, but that does not then change their current timeline. What it does is it creates a branching new timeline that's going to run parallel to the prime one, which I think is the scenario that Zack is currently in. He's in a parallel timeline. Stick with me. I sound like the Ancient Aliens guy, I know. My cork boards are falling over. I have to go to the store to buy some new red strings. Just stick with me. And shows like The Flash, where Barry Allen has run back in time before and then run back to the present, he's now changed his current timeline. And that's different than how, Endgame shows it. But fixed points in time, I bring that up because in a show like The Flash, Barry has traveled back in time so many different times for certain reasons. And for him, one of the reasons he goes back in time is to try and prevent the death of his mother. But he comes to find out over time that that is a fixed point in time, meaning it cannot be changed. It needs to happen. That's what sets off the chain of events that allows Barry to become the Flash and the world to remain normal. And there are moments where he does save his mom, and it creates severe ramifications for his timeline moving forward. And in shows like that, even if there's someone guarding the timeline or not, those fixed points in time are always going to be there, which is the point I was trying to make in my Changing Fate video, that yeah, the Whispers are gone, but Aerith and Zack might still need to die in order to correct the timeline. After Sephiroth is defeated, maybe there's still some ramifications going on, and they realize we can't correct this properly unless we act out our deaths, and then they're gone. And it also gets a little deeper, because if you think about Zack, I fully believe he's going to play a big part in stopping Sephiroth. I've had this really cool bombastic idea of Sephiroth jumping between timelines while he's fighting Cloud and Zack at the same time. That would be insane if that were to happen. But I think Zack is going to play a part in stopping Sephiroth in Genova, and it might be, stick with me here, maybe Zack has to die in the original timeline so that way he can be brought back in this timeline so he can stop Sephiroth. It sounds convoluted, and it's probably way simpler than what I'm making it out to be, but I just thought that was kind of interesting to talk about that very briefly. I sound like a nut, and I'm fully aware of that, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about all this time travel stuff and timelines, and how do you think they're going to handle that in Rebirth, assuming time travel and timelines are a thing in this trilogy. And that's the video. I'm Curious Corduroy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How would you guys like to see them do a recap in Rebirth? Do you want to just have like a simple video that you can watch at the beginning of the game in the main menu? Or do you want the characters to actually talk about the events of Remake leading into Rebirth? I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.